I need sex or I feel lonely.
Get thrown out on the streets because I only slept with 3 men at that time.
Pretty much that she's standing here today.
I have another brother?
We might have had sex a long time ago. And
Just friends, I hope.
Prostitution, everything else.
I'd be betting on her.
She was pregnant. She never told me I even had a child.
This is adding to your doubt.
I didn't have everything perfected.
So how convinced are you now?
Ms. Hicks appeared in court with one goal: to seek paternity of her son, Micah. However, there were not 2 but 3 contenders for the role of fatherhood, one of whom was the defendant who claimed mommy was after his money. There was doubt, there was denial, and there was a desire for answers. What more do we want, right?
Ms. Hicks, you say that when your 4-year-old son Micah was conceived, you were having unprotected sex with 3 different men. Since his birth, you claim you've been searching for your child's father and you believe Mr. Bolton is the man.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're appearing in court today with your husband because you both want to learn the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Who would have thought a one-night stand would end up with such drastic consequences? Well, that happened. Baby mama along with the baby were living with the boyfriend of that time, but things took a harsh turn. And boy, what that boyfriend did was pretty hateful.
You get thrown out on the street. Yes, in the middle of January, my baby left out with only a diaper and a t-shirt on with a blanket in his car seat. They took back everything and went to my mother's house. My mother bought him everything. At that time, we were already getting the DNA test for the first guy that I was with.
On the boyfriend
Whose
family you were living with. Okay.
Well, the defendant was the 3rd guy to be tested now, but he didn't believe that number. Nope, he believed there were more players in the game. Furthermore, the way Mr. Bolton got to know about the child he might have was surely a scene out of the movie.
To Mr. Bolton that he's potential father number 3.
I never contacted him. He actually,
I was
he
at a
stayed
brother's
at my,
house,
he stayed,
Sean, we was
I
playing
was talking though.
spades.
I was talking.
That's when the initiation began all over again. Seen her at a brother's house. Her and her husband was there together. We were drinking and playing spades. Now, I looked at her and said, maybe she looks familiar. A couple of days go by. I see Miss Hicks at the bus stop. At that time, my car was broken down.
Wow, this baby daddy had serious doubts about being the father, and he wasn't just running his mouth. Nuh-uh! He had stories to back them up with. Despite having a boyfriend at the time, baby mama had sowed quite a few oats, and now she was reaping the consequences.
Upon coming back to Atlanta, Georgia, years go by, I'm not hearing any type of information as far as her looking for me.
Your point is this is adding to your doubt because all of these years, she's not even looking for
Exactly.
you. You wasn't a thought.
You had sex with me? I mean,
Evidently, it wasn't memorable. Hold on. She said you weren't a thought.
I'm
It
not
wasn't
sure.
a thought.
But now,
It
Miss Hicks,
wasn't
I
a
have to
thought.
ask you.
Who's the daddy? That was the running question here. Now, the baby mama thought she was playing it smart, but that delusional as heck. Oh yeah, because the baby daddies seem to be uniting and ganging up on her. Dear God.
So how convinced are you now that Mr. Bolton is?
Oh, I'm very convinced. I'm very convinced because I only slept with 3 men at that time. Even though he was last, you know, it was still around that time. So it's a very good chance that he could be Micah's father.
Very good chance, or are you 100% sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Your Honor, she says she got 2 men tested.
2 men tested, which came out to be negative.
Now, a minute ago, these guys were vibing along by the looks of it, but as soon as the husband stepped up to the podium, things took a different turn. Mr. Renard turned the tables on the defendant. Yeah, heard that right. No worries though, because Judge Lake wasn't letting that fly.
So Micah calls you daddy.
Yes.
Does he call you daddy too?
Yes, Your Honor.
But you know for sure you're not his biological father.
Yes.
And you are uncertain.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you've been with him since...
Well, Your Honor, we at first met a year before all this started happening.
Okay.
And she was pregnant. We was introduced by her brother.
Coming back to the real issue at hand, Mr. Bolton threw the idea of a meeting between these guys, but before he could even finish testifying, the baby mama kept interjecting. Let the guys speak, woman. And the more this woman talked, I swear, the more guilty she appeared, and the whole paternity court witnessed that.
So myself and my girlfriend
We
can
set
come
up
over.
a
Yes,
meeting.
Your Honor,
We set up a
what
meeting.
he's
They
saying
didn't
is
even want to
incorrect.
talk to
You
me at
stayed
first.
right down
I've
the
been getting
street from
messages.
us.
Don't come around. You don't have to do anything in his life. So I'm like, we need to have a meeting. Once we had that meeting, everything came out on the table.
Okay.
Only thing I asked her husband, I'm not sure. But for the time being, do you mind if he comes around me because she feels like I'm the father? Is it okay if I get my time with this young man.
Well, all that doubt and denial was taking them nowhere, apart from going around in circles. But we aren't here for that, are we? Nope. We are for answers, real ones, and they were ready to be dished out. Let's see who was being truthful and who wasn't.
Mr. Bolton, you are not his father.
I brought him around a lot of different people. So regardless of the fact, it's just like a dagger in my heart.
I'm so sorry. I know this wasn't the news you wanted. I could see it in your eyes. It's like I hated to say the not. I could see in your face you were wanting it to be so.
If it's up to her husband, Miss Hicks, I'll still be a part of his life. Just like you said, I have no problem with it.
The only thing I can say is I apologize.
Ms. Michelle was a broken shell of a woman by the courtesy of her dear old sister. Yep, she was her sister for having a child with her husband of 10 years. Wow! Get ready, people, for a tale of family feuds, betrayal, and a desperate search for the truth.
Ms. Hayes, you say that your sister, the defendant, claims to have a child with your husband of 10 years, and you have petitioned the court for a paternity test. And you are here to warn her that when he finds out her baby is not his today, she'll probably never hear from him again. Now, Ms. Hayes, you state that your sister is just jealous that you were able to have her husband's baby and she was not.
So, the sisters share quite a tumultuous history. Yep, no way of sugarcoating that one. Yikes, the eldest had saved the youngest from the depths of despair, and while sharing a recent such incident, safe to say, it was nothing short of traumatic with a capital T.
And I didn't even know about my second
And she had
husband
me,
until my
and
dad
she had
told
me around each of them in the same predicament.
So you're
And with-
not denying this,
No.
Ms. Hayes. Just so the court can clarify, this was your younger sister.
Yes, I've had custody of this girl since she was 11. The choices that she made between our dad and her mom led her into drugs, prostitution, everything else. The latest time that I rescued you, I helped you get clean.
Yes.
To say the relationship was strained, it's got to be an understatement of the century, man. These guys did have love between them once. So where did it all go wrong? Oh, I know. The point where the wife allowed the husband to sleep with her sister. True story, folks.
I didn't know how to respect myself, and it doesn't come overnight. And I did go to detox for a week, and when all this came about, I didn't go to my sister and say, I need sex or I feel lonely. We used to hang out in her room together, watch movies, whatever we would do.
So you guys, first you got along. You were
Yeah.
sisters.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And so everything was great. We would live together, hang out together. I would hang out in her room, watch movies.
And at the same time, she's lying to him about things that I'm doing to get me and him to argue.
What kind of marriages are people having these days? Well, Ms. Michelle herself let the guy do the devil's tango. So why doubt paternity then? The said husband was a notorious fella. Oh yeah, his infidelity knew no bounds. The jerk.
I did not go about our relationship the right way. Again, I was on drugs 15 years, so within a year's time, I didn't have everything perfected.
Michelle, I completely understand all that you've done for your sister. I mean, when you enumerate out the lengths, the things that you've done to make sure pretty much that she's standing here today, I think it's commendable. And you've done what a sister should do. The part I cannot understand.
Well, these sisters certainly argue like sisters. And boy, they weren't done ripping at each other yet. Yep, the floodgates were open. And so were the good old can of worms. And they were everywhere.
Is the reason why you think he's not the father of your sister's child because you think he's not able to have children?
Yes. She told him
Part of
that
it.
she's got more than he does, that he's not a man.
I do.
Wow. What I want to impress upon you ladies as you argue like sisters is that really it's
Look
not
at her.
about you.
Look at my baby.
It's about that beautiful little baby.
About time, the infamous husband graced the court with his presence. So, Mr. Corey had been made a fool twice regarding paternity, but seemed to be sure about this one. Yet, he didn't sign the birth certificate. He went on a long story as to why he couldn't sign it, but frankly, that wasn't playing in his favor at all.
He had to go to
That's
work.
not the case, ma'am.
He was at the hospital every day and could have signed it at any time. It didn't have to be that particular day at that particular
Why
time.
didn't
That's
you
not
sign the
true.
birth certificate?
I had to be to work within an hour. They came down for her to sign the papers. By the time they would go up and get the papers for me to sign, I would have already been at work.
Yeah,
So you were in and out. Now, how old is the baby?
Almost 11 months.
Almost 11 months
Yes.
old.
By the looks of it, it appeared the real problem lay in the fact that Ms. Michelle never seemed to have gotten pregnant by Mr. Corey. Yep, she was a woman scorned, and we all know how that saying goes. And still, the baby daddy couldn't resist poking the woman further.
The
Okay,
other
right.
25 women that he carried on with for long-term relationships.
No, you just jealous of us and you want to take the baby.
I
That's
am-
what that is.
I don't want your baby. I don't
Okay.
want Kayla.
I didn't say you wanted to have the baby. I said you wanted to have the baby taken from us. It's proven by your actions.
Really?
Yes.
Have I called CPS on you?
Yeah,
You,
she
you
came in and
threatened
picked my
me.
baby up because we were outside on the patio. And
I
my
sure
baby
did.
was
Her premature baby was
And she
on the
picked my
couch
baby
by
up.
herself.
After all the drama and turmoil, the moment of truth was upon this family, or what was left of them. They had a lot of resentment towards each other, but the real issue was the paternity. Let's see what fate had in store for them.
Mr. Hill, you are her father.
I just want to say what I was back then, I'm not today. And everybody needs a time frame to grow and get better. And I'm sorry that I didn't make the right decisions, but I'm doing the best I can. And if God provided us with this blessing, I'm going to do my best.
Ms. Lindsay had spent years grappling with lies and uncertainty about her father's identity, but now she believes she may have finally found the answer. The only obstacle, could she be able to prove that? Because the defendant definitely believed otherwise.
Ms. Lindsay, you say that after years of lies from your mother and uncertainty about who your father is, you believe you finally found him.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say everyone in town, including his family, knows Mr. Dannenbrink is your father, and you intend to prove that today. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Better buckle up, people, because this mystery was years in the making, so it was going to be a wild one. Baby daddy and mama had a fling, a hit-and-run situation as they call it. She then ghosted the guy, but appeared back years later, and not just that, also rekindled their affair, and the poor daughter knew about this possible father, who was so close, yet so far away.
About 35 years ago, my mom does admit to having a child with Mr. Dannenbrink. And
How many years ago?
About 35, around there.
Okay.
And when I was about 16 years old, an ex of Mr. Dannenbrink's came to my house and accused me of being the child that they had had together. And when I had asked my mother about that, she told me no, that it wasn't true.
You were 16?
Yes.
And an ex of Mr. Dannenbrink's comes to your house?
Yes.
Well, once these guys used to bump uglies, but now they were the best of friends. Yeah, how about that? Furthermore, Mama was sure Mr. Dannenbrink wasn't her guy, but so was the daughter that he was, as she presented a conception calendar of her own. However, these guys were doing the nasty for just a couple of weeks. Bump and go.
So you were confident of that?
Yes, I am 100%.
But were you sleeping with Mr. Dannenbrink during the window of conception?
Not as far as I know. I believe that I got pregnant between June and July.
What are you holding, Ms. Lindsay?
I'm holding a calendar.
Jerome, will you please hand me her evidence? Thank you. You're welcome. What is this calendar outline?
This calendar shows, for one, the day that I was born.
Oh, you guys aren't prepared for what's about to hit you next. Now, Lindsay seriously doubted her mother, and she had a pretty good reason for it. Apparently, Mommy Dearest once told her of another kid that died at childbirth. Yeah, and guess whose kid was that?
And I remember at another time she was a younger sister than me, and she was stillborn at birth.
Hold on now.
Your Honor.
Wait a minute. So you've been told a story
Yes.
by your mother that she did have a child with Mr. Dannenbrink.
Yes.
You were told this child passed away.
Yes, at birth.
Yes.
At
Your Honor.
birth?
Yes, Your Honor. I had a stillborn.
And was that Mr. Dannenbrink's child?
Yes, Your Honor.
She never said nothing to me about that.
No.
Dear Lord, no wonder the plaintiff doesn't believe a word out of her mother's mouth. But hold on, that wasn't the end of it. Yep, there was more. Baby mama was full of surprises, man. Here's another one.
She didn't technically lie about another brother, but she didn't tell me about another brother. She got pregnant and gave him up for adoption. It went through social media that he found me, and I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? You're not my brother. And I called my mom at that time and I said, I have another brother? And she's like, oh, well, I thought he died. And I was like, what?
Bet you didn't see that coming. Moving on, Ms. Lindsay shared her life story without a father. And boy, wasn't that painful. Furthermore, she mentioned a best friend, and the guy happened to be the defendant's son.
I mean, I had my friends for a small time, which is kind of funny. I had one friend that was like my best friend, and it just happened to be his son.
Wait, that could potentially be your brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you all were good friends?
Yes.
Just friends, I hope.
Yes, Your Honor. That goes through my head, trust and believe me. Not knowing exactly who my dad is, it does go through my head.
The moment of truth was here, and the stakes were high for the plaintiff. Whether her lifelong search for a father finally came to an end, or whether her paternity remains a mystery, we are about to find out.
Mr. Dannenbrink, you are not her father.
It doesn't matter. I consider her my daughter.
I know this was difficult for you.
Mr. Brock brought her very pregnant girlfriend to court because he had serious doubts about not just one, but all kids they shared, including the unborn one. And not just a paternity test, but a lie detector test was the order of the day. Yep, strap in for a chaotic ride as we delve into an 11-year-long relationship filled with reservations, betrayals, and a whole lot of family drama.
Mr. Brock, you claim you have been supporting Ms. Almanza's 2 children for the last 5 years and are convinced since they are not yours. You have petitioned the court requesting a paternity test to determine if you are the father of the children in question and the one she is currently carrying, as well as a lie detector test to determine if she has been cheating.
So, long story short, this 11-year-long relationship wasn't a fairy tale romance, but rather a messy entanglement. Not a model couple for sure. Their foundation was about as stable as a house of cards during a windstorm, and mommy was disgusted by the daddy's behavior. Uh-oh.
Well, during that time,
From technical difficulties?
technical difficulties.
That's a new crime.
Right.
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties.
Okay.
But before I was incarcerated, she told me that she was a certain amount of months pregnant or whatever weeks or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, I agreed with it, whatever. But then when I got incarcerated, she had a doctor appointment, and the timing was off from the time she said she was pregnant.
Now let's add some heartbreak to the mix. Shall we? Got to make it juicy right, which Mr. Brock did when he had fun times with baby mama's relatives. Oh boy, messy, and messy. Well, they both weren't saints now, were they? But the baby daddy was in the jerk league of his own.
Tib, no, it's not.
Oh.
That happened during the time me and her, we had our little timeout.
So, wow, this is messy. Now, speaking of DNA tests, Ms. Almanza, you refused a DNA test?
No, when my daughter was born, I needed to get assistance for her medical. So I went to, apply for that.
Moving on from that debacle, Ms. Almanza pulled up a picture from her baby shower. And Tata, baby Dada, was there, and all smiles too. If he had so many doubts, what the heck was he doing there? And check out his response. The audacity.
He was there, so if he doesn't feel that he's the father, why was he there?
So that's a picture from your baby shower.
This is a picture from my baby shower. He was there.
So, Mr. Brock, you attended the baby shower?
I mean, she invited my brother, so it's like it put me in a position to where, like, what would it look like your brother show up? I already know the little shenanigans that was put to set up for me, but your brother show up, but you don't show up. So, of course, I went.
So both of these guys had lie detector tests ordered for each other. Ah, the love they shared. Baby mama couldn't take the test because of her pregnancy, but the daddy sure could. But before we get to the juicy bits of that, the results of the DNA test were in, and here we go.
Mr. Brock, you are her father.
That's what I need to hear.
He knew that. He knew that.
It's good to hear.
That's what I need to hear.
You needed to hear it.
He knew that.
See, needs to hear, Jerome.
Well, looky here. Who's the fool now, huh? Mr. Brock was the baby daddy. Not sure if it was a happy news or a sad one, but it was now the truth. Moving on to the lie detector test now. Let's see if he passes that with flying colors.
Will you marry me?
Ms. Almanza, not to be in your business. If you'd like to hear these results before you respond, and it's up to you.
I do. I want to know.
The lie detector administrator then asked Mr. Brock, have you had any type of sexual contact with anyone? Mr. Brock, you said no. The lie detector determined that was a lie. Lastly, the lie detector administrator asked if you have had any sexual contact with this person since then. Mr. Brock, you said no. The lie detector determined that was a lie. You failed every question.
The lie detector test is a lie, that's why.
You better leave here thanking your lucky stars that is something this woman still sees in you.
Putting a twist on the regular features here at Paternity Court, we have Mr. Clark here. Now, he claimed he was absolutely positive he fathered baby Lee Kearney. The only one standing in his way was the baby mama. Cue the paternity crisis, folks.
Mr. Clark, you're here to prove to Ms. Bolden that you are the biological father of her 3-year-old daughter, LaKearney Clark. And once the DNA results prove you're right, you want to be able to spend more time with your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Bolden, you say that you've always told Mr. Clark he was not your daughter's father and hope that once these results are revealed, the real biological father, Mr. Moore, who will enter the court in a moment, will step up.
Apparently, these guys had an argument over bills and things heated up. Mr. Clark stormed out of the house, and Mommy thought if he can do it, so can I. But instead of cooling down, he went right ahead and called up Mr. Moore. Yep, and the trouble began.
He stormed at the door, so I stormed at the door too. I called
called Mr. Moore, and we had got a hotel room. And that night I had sex with Mr. Moore, and that's the night I think I conceived.
And so you were dating Mr. Clark.
Right.
Got the argument, you stormed out, then you cheated with Mr. Moore.
Yes.
So the baby daddy thought he was the real deal, and Ms. Bolden let him continue believing that. Furthermore, not only her but the other guy also believed he was the baby daddy. However, after a year, the defendant had to take this skeleton out of the closet. About time. Woman.
He already knew. He never had doubts of my baby. He always said he just wanted the DNA test with her to prove that he is the father.
So, Mr. Clark, did you know there was another man that she was talking about a DNA test with?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes, Your Honor.
So at what point did you find this out?
During the relationship, I knew she cheated on me and did all of this, but like I said, I had no doubt that she was my daughter. I always felt like that.
Oh, baby mama wasn't gonna win any brownie points with that attitude. She was a sneaky woman. And on top of that, she apparently had a habit of changing her number quite frequently. And this was her reason for it.
If there's a possibility he is, why is it he doesn't have any way to contact you?
Because I'm always changing my number. Like, I change my number like 3 times out of a month.
You do?
Yes.
Why?
Because certain people have my number and I don't want them having my number, so I just changed my number.
But if this man could be your child's father, how can they keep up with their child?
Finally, Mr. Moore stepped up and stated his case. Now he believed he was father. And guess what? The only hurdle in his way of spending some quality time with the baby was Ms. Bolden. Furthermore, the sister of Mr. Moore gave her 2 cents over all this fiasco as well.
So you see a strong resemblance?
Yes.
Think she looks like you?
Yes.
So now, do you want to be her father? You want to be there for her?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How involved have you been in her life?
Not that much.
So if you want her to be your child and you think she's your child, why are you not involved in her life?
Cause she don't bring her around. It's hard to keep up with her.
Well, we've heard testimony that would validate that. For certain, she says she changes her number.
Well, baby mama was surely playing with both the baby daddies. She let the Moores be involved in her life, and yet had the all to not deliver Mr. Clark's Christmas gifts to the baby. Take a guess as to what she ended up doing with the gifts. And hold on, she also had the nerve to put up a picture on Facebook to hurt the poor guy. Yeesh.
It obsessed me. Like this past Christmas, you know, I don't work, you know what I'm saying, but I'm self-employed. I cut hair. I do tattoos from time to time. I took my hard working money and bought liqueur and 2 gifts, you know, and I dropped them out to her house. She wasn't there this Christmas. I didn't get to see her. I got word that she had to open up her gifts on the porch because they were for me. And I feel like that was wrong.
As the tension reached its peak, the courtroom was all set and ready to deliver the verdict. 2 parties were seriously involved in this, and yet one of them was bound to get devastated by the outcome of the results. Here goes nothing.
Mr. Clark.
I knew it.
You do. You're very happy. That's good.